But like, if you look at any of that stuff, if there's ever a problem, I'm the first person to be like, I missed.
Yeah.
Like I made a projection. I thought it was going to go this way and it didn't. And that's on me.
Great experiences build great leaders. Great leaders build great teams. This is Building Great Sales Teams.
All right, guys, I'm super excited today because we got Jacob Stahler on the podcast. He's a serial entrepreneur, owns a lot of different businesses, done a lot of different things. I actually spent some time with him on one of the private jet trips that I took with Ryan Stewman, and he was just sitting there educating us on all kinds of different businesses he had and situations he's been in. And so there is a lot to learn from Jacob today. His legacy that he wants to leave behind, I love. It has to do with mentorship to others and leaving behind a lasting impact on them when it comes to achieving their freedom. So check it out.
The math, and I even did it short-sighted, to be honest. I didn't show what we actually lost. I just showed like a very median point to kind of drive home how big of a mistake it was.
Yeah.
And the reply was like, well, I'm human. I'm like, yo, if I said that and I missed payroll, like, you'd threaten to quit. Yeah. Like, this is a $700,000 mistake over 3 months. And the response is like, I'm human. Sometimes stuff happens. Like, no, you made decisions repeatedly that were wrong. And if you were to be like, hey, you know, I'll do this, this, and this next time, I'd been like, okay, like, we learned the lesson. It was a very expensive lesson on my half, but we learned it. So we can move forward. And like, so anyway, I went down a rabbit hole and had to fix a bunch of stuff. And obviously I found other problems. And yeah, so I've been doing that. And then we didn't have power from 2 a.m. till midnight on Monday. So I had generators all over the house and I was a mess yesterday. But I'm, finding my groove again.
Finding on even kill again.
Yeah. I mean, the most you can do is the very next day, go to bed at your normal time, wake up at your normal time, and do what you can to get back into your groove.
Routine. Yeah.
Shit's always going to happen. A lot of other people would let it ruin their week. I don't have that kind of time. So,
that's where I'm at. I'm like, yeah. And it was the same thing. Like, she didn't own the mistake. And it wasn't even a mistake. It was how she responded to me in an email.
Yeah.
Because I was upset with the way we were handling our salespeople.
Yep.
And at the end of the call, I was like, all I want you to do is own it, that you were being a smart ass.
Yeah.
And then you could say, yeah, I lost my shit a little bit. I was being a smart ass. And it's like,
it's always passive aggressive smart ass stuff too. Like, and they're being chippy because you've managed enough people to know what that looks like.
Yeah.
And so like, and it's cool because I do it too. Like, I'm a smart ass sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And my staff is cool to be like, yo, you're being a dick. And like, okay, I am, you're right. Like, my fault. But they own it too. Like, that's the relationship we have. So I get it, dude. Yeah. And it wrecks your mood too, because you pour so much into people. And it's just like proof that they're not taking any of it. And that's the part where you feel like you're failing as like a teacher. Yes. It's not them. It's like, it's you.
Right.
And so, yeah, when I let her go, I was like, I have to own some of this because I didn't babysit good enough. And so that part's on me. And that's why I'm giving you an opportunity to like stay, because I could have caught this and I didn't catch it.
Yeah.
So I wasn't holding you accountable. So at the same time, you could be like, well, why didn't you double check my work? And then my response would have been, well, I shouldn't have to. So,
no,
we can do this all we want.
Yeah, but it's crazy because the answer is never 100%. It's always like 80%, and you feel 80% good about it because you are supposed to give them enough row to hang themselves, or else they'll never grow. They'll never be responsible for anything. They'll never take on anything.
No.
You know what I mean? And I have done that from a very young age, and it's bit me in the ass more than it has benefited me at this point, because I'm left with, a few solid people that I know are ride or die, right? But I haven't built out that amazing like staff side of things, operations side. You know, honestly, my best ops people right now are VAs.
Yep.
They're killing
they're
it.
so programmable.
Yes.
They're absolutely and they have no ego.
No.
None.
It's very
like,
task oriented. Yeah.
Like, oh, I need to do it this way. Sure. I'll do that this way next time.
Yeah.
Like when you're you're not from here, like how come it's that easy for you? And it's just culture.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how they're built. I've reached a point with like my medical staff. We have our core like 12 people.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten to a point where I fire people real quick now if I don't think they're a fit, because I'm not trying to rock the boat with the people that we have. And I know that they'll handle their shit. If they have to work by themselves, I pay them a little bit more.
Yeah.
But like I have that core. I just paid somebody to move to San Antonio to open up like that portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm totally cool with her being 4 hours away. Like I'm not worried about it. The mistakes that she makes, she won't even apologize, because I don't care about apologies. That why it happened doesn't fucking matter. Mm-hmm. You know, if you come at me with like, oh, this is what I'll do next time. Like, I don't care about the apology. I don't care about the why.
About the
I don't care about the story. Yeah. Like, how do we not do this again?
Yeah.
And she's programmed to do that now. She was the first person I ever hired.
Mm-hmm.
The first 4 people I ever hired are still here. And we're going on year 5, I think.
Yeah.
So they've seen it when it was at its worst, and our systems were terrible and our software was bad. And, and they stuck with me through it just because I treat them like people. But
and that's what you do.
If you're not reciprocal, fuck.
Yeah. Right? And that's how I feel sometimes, because, from like 2 years ago, we've been pouring into everybody core values. Yep. We've been developing them. We've been spending money. I've even had I hired Jennifer Crosco to coach one of my operations people. You know what I mean? Because she had a lot more going on than the job, right? And it does. You get frustrated, and if you're good with it, we'll include this stuff in the podcast because it's all good stuff. Cool. Yeah. You get frustrated because when it really matters, sometimes it's not reciprocated. Like when it's time to like say, hey, Doug's been pouring into me for a year now. You know what I mean? Since I got hired or whatever, investing in me, putting responsibility on me, giving me raises, all that good stuff. Actually following through with the core values, giving a shit, treating me like a person, and then I fuck up. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, can you just own it and can we move on? Even if it was partly my fault, like you said, some of it was your fault, right? But even if it was partly my fault, it's like, damn, all I do is own this shit all day and try to figure out how to do better. You know what I mean? I would like someone else to say, hey, that was me. I'm going to fix that shit. If you were to ever go back on anything I ever said, anything I've ever put in text, like I run most of my companies through an app that Facebook makes called Workplace. So I don't even have meetings. I record what I need to say and I put it in the company's like social deal. Everybody watches it while they're driving, like whatever. And if they have questions, everybody chimes in at different times, and we can still spitball on a video I recorded a month ago today. But like, if you look at any of that stuff, if there's ever a problem, I'm the first person to be like, I missed. Yeah. Like I made a projection. I thought it was going to go this way and it didn't. And that's on me. Here's what I'm doing, or the steps that I'm taking to make sure that we don't go through that again. Yeah. And I apologize, for everybody that it affected. And everybody thinks like, because you're at the top of the food chain, it's easier to own a mistake. It's not any different. It's just accountability. No, it sucks. Yeah. But you're at the top. So if you fuck up, we can't fire you. Yes, you can. You can quit. Yeah. Like, what do you mean you can't? That's your version of firing me. Yeah. Like if you're done with me, then you're done with me. I can't do nothing about that. Or worse, you'll stay on and do a bad job. Yeah, and not care until you can find whatever you're going to move on to. Yeah, that's the worst. So if I'm not being accountable to you guys, that's the biggest problem, because I'm showing that you don't have to be accountable at the highest level. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, I need you guys to be independent of me. I don't want you to sit there and wait for the next task. I don't want you to freeze anytime that a decision has to be made. Yeah. I need you to feel empowered to make decisions and make mistakes.
Because if you don't feel empowered to do that, one, I'll never have an opportunity to coach you because you're not going to make a mistake.
Yeah.
But two, you're never going to be able to advance here because I can't see whether or not you make good decisions.
Right.
And it's, if you're a person that makes a ton of bad decisions, but you take the coaching, like that's a massive growth signal for me.
Yeah.
We talk about things one time and it never happens again. Like, you got a future, kid. Like, that's all I want to see. But I think that most people have worked in, especially if they come from a corporate, right? You make a mistake and you get chastised. Your manager comes over and puts you in a box and tells you you're a piece of shit. So like, no one wants to make a mistake because they don't want to go through that.
Right.
But that's the reason why those places turn people over so quickly.
And we almost get excited about mistakes because it's a growth piece. We know because of that mistake, we're going to do so much better in the future. We got to deal with the bullshit of the result until then, but we know that long term that mistake was made out. And I love it when mistakes are made early in a process or early in a campaign or a product or anything, because now I know, okay, we got that out of the way and now we can really grow.
Well, and people always do the, like, what's your goal, right? My goal is literally to go to bed better than I woke up. And like, the route to learning something is to fucking be wrong.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, so if my goal is literally to be better than I woke up when I go to sleep, I have to screw up or I have to not know something.
Absolutely.
Because that's the only way that I can do that. So like, the best result for me on a day-to-day basis is to screw up. And so like, that's literally my mantra. I almost seek it out. In situations where I'm sure of something, I'll engage somebody with a different counterpoint because I'm trying to see if I'm still right. Because they may have information I don't have. And so people are like, oh, you're combative. I'm like, I'm not combative. I'm challenging your point of view because it's not mine.
Right.
And if I need to have yours, I need to find out what's wrong with mine. And I need to do it real quick. And that's where you don't get anywhere with ego and pride when it comes to that. And I feel like a lot of people, especially that have an employee mindset, they view being wrong as like the ultimate failure. And it's hard to, it almost takes 6 or 8 months to get people to feel like it's okay. Yeah. I have a staff member that works for me. She got to be going on maybe 2.5 years. She does one of the hardest routes with some of the most demanding travel. And she treated it just like a job originally. Yeah. So like, she would clock in, she would do her work, and she was good at it. But like, she didn't care about the brand. She didn't care about representing the brand. She didn't care how she looked. Which of your brands is this? The medical side. Okay. My hair salon, all of the people there, I want individuality there. Right. You know, when you walk into like, you know, when you like walk into a hair salon and it feels like whitewashed, like everybody's wearing black and white. The walls are stark white. And like, you know, it's going to be $400 for a haircut. Yeah. Like, and it doesn't matter if they're good or not. You're paying for the ambiance. At my salon, we have people that charge $400 for a haircut. I have apprentices that are $30. And like, so, you know, I've got people that can do braids. I got people that can do, like, we do everything. And so I want you to feel comfortable being you, because you're the product. Yeah. And at most hair salons, they're like, oh, well, you need to respect the brand in the salons, blah, blah. My salon's not, we don't have a brand. Like, whoever the chairs they come and sit down at is why they're there. It doesn't matter what brand I create for a hair salon. No one comes for the brand. They aren't cutting their hair. Like, it's not, you know what I mean? Yeah. But on the medical side, I mean, you know, people, they want to come in and they want someone that looks, you know, clean cut and manicured. But thing is, like, if you want to purple in your hair, I don't care. If you want to have long nails, not a big deal to me. Right. It's more about like whatever person you want to be, just like being that, like versus being lazy. Yeah. Like, put some effort into it. And that's really all I asked for. And she's slowly started coming around, and she's very eager to learn. She's very, and like, it's because she's come around to understand that if I say that something will happen, it does. Right. You know, she's gotten raises. She's become in charge of a route. She's like, all of that stuff has happened. And that's how you get your buy-in. But some people never buy in. And at some point you have to cut your losses and determine what I call it cost of replacement, right?
Yeah.
If you're somebody that just shows up and I can hire a new one of those.
Right.
It takes nothing. If you're somebody that's really ingrained in the fabric of the brand, I can't replace that. Like I can't do it. If you have a bunch of ancillaries, that's what makes you more valuable. That's how you get paid more.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not somebody like, I think I was talking to Stacy about this when we recorded a podcast.
Yeah.
Do you have any employees that you go to and you're like, hey, I need you to do this. And the first thing they say is like, am I getting paid extra for it? Or, you know what I'm saying? Have you ever had anybody say that to you?
I mean, like a long time ago, but I weed them out early on now. You know?
But that's what I'm saying. Like I'm, if someone does that to me, like you'll never get anything from me ever.
Right.
I'm coming to you because I need a favor. Like forget the task, forget your role at the company,
your title.
I'm coming to you out of everybody else. And I'm asking you for help because I think you're the best person to help me.
Yeah.
It's not about like, what can you get? This is showing me who you are and who you want to be. And that's how you get promoted. That's how you make more money or whatever. And I don't know where this became a thing. Like in society now, I've run across it last couple of businesses I built. Like, hey, we're going to trial something. We would like for you to be the person who does it. Like, is there any additional pay? What? I'm not asking you to work more hours. Yeah. We're putting you in a test program. If it blows up, you're the first person in it. You're the first person that will get to lead the charge. Yeah. Yeah. Like, look at this. It's like, this could be your department. Not like, what do I get right now? And I understand it because, again, if you come from a corporate background where you're not used to getting anything and they run you 60 hours a week, ragged, no thank yous, no nothing.
Right.
I get it. Like, I would ask that too. But the question is like, what have I done that's shown you that that's me? Mm-hmm. And that's where I have a problem with that question. Like, is that who they think I am? Or is this like run over from wherever they were before?
Yeah, that's a tough conversation to have, and it's hard to find out, because I've had mainly operational people. The sales side, it's easy to see it's coming from another company because it's in their practices, it's in their speech, how they're pitching and stuff like that. But on the operations side, there's just so much. We talk about how much our parents mess us up or whatever. you know what I mean? But man, the previous jobs, your job history is a whole nother animal that can influence you if you're not the type of person that can overcome a lot of it.
Yep. And it's hard to get over them too. Like I'm not a script person. I'm like more of a flow when it comes to conversation stuff, because there's no way to own a script from like your own like personality deal.
Right.
Like if I'm a type B person, I can still be a great salesperson. My process is just different. If I get a script from a guy that's type A, I'll never sell shit.
Right.
Because I can't say half of the stuff that this dude says and have anybody take me seriously.
And that's why, like, but a lot of my, we have scripts and I put it in quotes because they're bullet points.
Yeah.
You need to qualify these 3 things and you need to present
before you can move on.
Exactly. Yep. And so it's mainly bullet points, and that's what I do for my clients too. And they're like, well, aren't you going to tell me what to say? And I'm like, no, you're going to say it. And you're just going to know you got to hit
learn
that
the fucking product.
Yeah.
And then use these. But when I moved down to Phoenix to fix like the chain of gyms. And I don't know if you know anything about the fitness industry. It's really hard to keep salespeople. They're just very flighty. They want to be trainers, or they move in and out. Like people think it would be an easy job to sell gym memberships. So like everybody will accept. So I put together a 4-page script and I would make them memorize it verbatim.
Okay.
Because it was my litmus test on whether or not they actually really wanted the job. I couldn't figure out a way to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
so like the first 2 weeks was like, all right, y'all are going to memorize all of this. And so I would pay them for a 4-hour day, but only keep them at the gym for like a half hour when they were new. And I'm like, just go and learn this. And after they would be done, like the people who didn't or never came back or whatever, we would get to the end. I'd have like 2 or 3 people that had it fully memorized. I'd be like, you guys want to see why I made you memorize it? And they're like, yeah. And I would take them on a tour of the gym. And every point where a paragraph started, you'd be standing in a certain spot. But if you qualify, Like, oh, these are our racquetball courts. Would you see yourself using this? No, skip it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that.
They wouldn't know shit about racquetball though.
But
so like now,
it's also giving them a physical marker to say, hey, this is where I talk about this. You know what I mean? No,
and
that's
after
awesome.
it all tied it together, like when it was done, they were like, well, that was really smart. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, why didn't you tell us what it was for? I go, because I need to see if you want to be here. If I tell you that and I take away the pain point, a lot of other people would have stayed that maybe weren't as committed to it. You guys did it because I said to. Like, and now that you did that, do you think that anybody could walk in the door and you'd be able to handle it? And they're like, well, yeah, we haven't memorized.
Yeah.
So,
how many people did you weed out in that process though?
Oh, Jesus, probably 70% every time.
And I guess, coming from, door to door, it was always so hard to do that because then no one would do anything because the people we were getting were so low quality anyways. And not low quality in terms of character or anything. It was just, they didn't have any life skills or work skills yet. So we had to teach them everything. But as we've grown as a company, we've included things like, the wise hire questionnaires and the DISC assessments and all that type of stuff to kind of weed them out. But I love that too. We should just hire everybody and hand them a script and say, memorize it.
Well, the thing is though, I talk about this all the time, and there's lots of people that argue with me. I don't think hiring is a skill. I don't think you can learn to be good at hiring. You're selling, they're selling, right? Yeah. And especially if you're at scale, you have a job that you want to fill.
Yeah.
They need a job. How does this work? Like, you know what I mean? So like, if you can have a normal conversation with them and from a personality standpoint, you can vibe with them and they'll show up tomorrow. Like what does it cost you to see if they'll make it? Because sometimes the dudes that interview like shit are fantastic in front of other people. And I have yet, and I think, between my own businesses and everything else, I've probably been a part of 15 different businesses that started low and scaled. I've never met a single person that was any good at hiring. And we're talking like places that had 15 HR people and 4-stage hiring. They have the same attrition rate as people that almost hired everybody that walked in the door.
Does the attrition rate really matter if your strategy with hiring is to figure it out once they're hired?
Yeah. No. And that's the point. Like if you have the people in place to handle volume hiring, your best thing to do is to put them in your system. Character screen them, find out if they are pieces of shit or not. Right. But like outside of that, if they're coachable, you can teach anybody anything, so if you're getting into a pitch and your pitch is like, you go through company story and then you go through talking about the number of people that you've done business with, which gives you all of your, gives you your company profile, right? So trust bearing or whatever. And then you go into the product presentation and like you can teach anybody how to do that.
Yeah.
It's whether or not they're relatable and can get comfortable with whoever it is that they're selling. It's crazy too, because people that are great selling in person sometimes can't sell on the phone. Because it's a different feeling. Wow. But the people that are great at sales can do both because all it is trying to figure out how to be relatable, right? Well,
that's why I've resisted, because we do solar. So that's why I've resisted going virtual with solar, because us as a company, we're built to sell in person. That doesn't mean we have to do door to door, but the actual presentation needs to be in person. And we've seen.
And so, no, go ahead, finish.
We've seen basically conversion rates across the industry, and then with ourselves, because we've done some virtual presentations, our conversion rate is way better in person. But I think that's a company personality,
Well, not only that too, some products are just more tangible. Like you're talking about putting something on your house.
Yeah.
I worked with a company for 8 months called Power Home Remodeling. They started out as like a window, garage door, and gutter company, I think, way out on the East Coast. And these two guys got a hold of it, became partners in it, and kind of like changed the way that they do things. Yeah. And their setup, it's siding, it's roofing, it's windows, whatever. They're extremely high priced. They have selling points, obviously, to sell off of it that are not necessarily true. But people they pull the trigger.
Right.
Like, so their roofing product's $13 a foot. That's nuts.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're putting fucking gold bars on my roof, like you could do the same roof for $7. But part of the company culture, the way that they pay their staff, they do a company-wide trip to Mexico for 3 days that's paid for. Like, all you need to do is plane tickets. They've booked Pitbull and 50 Cent, whatever, to perform down in Mexico. But their business model, they have a marketing team. The marketing team does door to door, and then they set up booths anywhere homeowners are. Hockey shows,
home shows, yeah.
Basketball games, home shows, fishing places, gun show, whatever. Wherever there's going to be home, they set appointments. They have a call center that literally verifies the appointment like 4 times.
Okay.
And so then when a salesperson gets sent to their house, they've pitched marketing. The appointment's been qualified 4 separate times. They make sure that both decision makers are there. The salesperson that they're sending has 0 home improvement history. Absolutely none. Like, they won't hire you if you have to.
Yeah.
Because you have to learn their system.
Because you'll talk yourself out of a sale.
100%.
Yeah.
And also, you couldn't sell those products if you wanted to, because you have industry background and you know what it costs to do this project. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're hiring guys off the street, no real sales experience, no home, nothing. But they give them an iPad and they put them through like 3-week boot camp training, where you're slide by slide. You know exactly what you're talking about. It's a fucking 4-hour pitch.
Yeah.
So like, you would go out on a sales call at 6 p.m. If you were out of there at 9:30, it was fast.
Wow.
But you're in there talking about how water gets into windows, how it can create mold in the walls. You're doing heat tests with the stupid lamp in this big ass bag that you carry up to their door or whatever.
Wow.
But like, I went in and did sales for them. And as a rookie, I was crushing sales stuff, but I skipped half the shit that I learned. It wasn't necessary. Right. But the reason why they teach it is everybody will close at 50% doing it exactly the way that they teach it. I'm closing at 90% because I know how to sell.
Right. But they can't
teach that.
Yeah. That's a talent versus a teachable skill. Right.
So that's the way that they've scaled their company to be in the Fortune 500. They've got regions that do $500 million in sales. But that's the model. And like, I obviously couldn't stay and be a part of it because there's no way that I could be a VP of a region and run that play. It's just not who I am.
Right.
But they focus very heavily on self growth and programs like that. They have retreats for top salespeople. They have this house that they own in Georgia. They've got boats, and it's very culture centric.
Yeah.
But you take a bunch of people with
their opportunity structure is just insane.
Oh, yeah. The thing is, they have team leads and all this stuff. You get rips off the people that you coach, whatever. Yeah. You got a guy that's got no tangible skills. You teach him how to sell, and now he's making $100,000 a year. Is he ever leaving?
No.
To go where?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if he has a work-life balance. He's making more money than he's ever made in his entire life. And that's the trap. Yeah. And like I said, I think it's a fantastic business model. I'm impressed they were able to come up with it, but it's like slavery to me. Like, you put people into a job and you trap them. There's only so many management deals, and there's only so much string you can leave for people who think they're going to be team leads.
Yeah.
But I mean, one of the owners of that company owns the most expensive penthouse in Philly. And they took it from a window and garage door company to this like juggernaut. But I mean, they have a system for scrubbing bad reviews. They have it's very deceptive, right? But they've built this massive company that way. And it's wild to think that people are so programmable. I mean, they have a system too where they have their price drops, right?
Yeah.
So you lay off and you're like, all right, I'm gonna step outside, start putting my bag away or whatever. Just open the door or whatever when it's time for me to come back in. They've got plays for like, oh no, you don't need to do that. Like, we're just gonna think about it. You literally are walking out and you just shut the door. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you stay outside and you wait for them to come and get you. And then you basically go to war over math.
Right.
And like, their price drops, people have to be available for phone calls. It's wild.
It's a whole production though.
Oh yeah. Top to bottom.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's very genius that they were able to come up with that and do so well with it.
Yeah.
It's just not something that I could do. because I don't feel like I'm providing any value to those people. It's like I'm weaponizing them.
Yeah, no,
I
know what you mean, because my company was built that way in my early 20s.
Yep.
It was very much, everything that you're saying, aside from the 500 million per region and Mexico trips and stuff like that. Like the most we ever did was 5 million, right? And so, but we were set up that way. That's why it all sounds so familiar to me, and that's a sales org. That's how a sales org should be run. Now we run more of a hybrid where we actually have freedom training and we teach them taxes and investing and real estate and all that stuff. And we bring experts in to teach that stuff, because we're not the experts in it. We're the experts in running the sales org, So that's kind of where we're at right now.
It's wild to me too, because I feel like there's a shift. Of the people that work at that company, the new people that are just getting ingrained in the culture are the ones that are its biggest proponent. Mm-hmm. They have a crazy referral incentive. If you refer one person, it's $2,500 at 90 days. Mm-hmm. At 2 people, it's an additional 1,000 at 60 days. If you get to 4 people, it's like 10 or 12 grand.
Wow. And
they're paying you.
There's no production stipulation on that? Obviously, if they're not producing, though, they're not going to be with the company that long.
No. So. Yep. And that's their hedge, right?
That's not a bad idea. I mean, my referral.
Well, think about the amount of revenue that one salesperson would get you over 10 or 12 months.
As long as you maintain your standards, though, because, I've gotten into those situations where I wasn't maintaining my standards and I didn't get an ROI on the referral fee,
Yep.
But that's
a management issue.
Right.
If you're not going to stick to your guns and let people go, what are you going to do?
Absolutely.
But the thing was, they would get people's entire friend groups. So if you have somebody's entire social network, no one's going to tell them that their job sucks.
Right. Exactly.
So just it's hive mind. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I'm impressed they've been able to build their company that way. It's just not something that I would ever be able to go to sleep if I was doing it.
That's the thing. It's they've built out their margins so well that there's room for all that to get fleeced out. All the issues and everything to get fleeced out, right? And then they're relying on the sales process versus the product.
Well, they're also relying on the general public not to know any better.
Right.
And it's we offer this price as a first visit discount, right? Yeah. Well, everyone knows that's a pressure sale, right?
Right.
But then they have this whole paragraph about why the discount's worth it for the company. Mm-hmm. And it goes through, we're already out here. We've already done the gas. If I have to come back out here, they can't send me to somebody else's house.
Right.
And if you extrapolate that over the 75 people that we have that handle this region, and we're giving you a 20% discount, do the math on that many appointments.
Genius.
And it's enough to climb over the hurdle.
The objection.
And so now you're back in the pocket. When it's all bullshit, really. Bottom is bottom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And top is top. And so I was a person, it was very rare that I sold a partial project. I just didn't want to do it. The people are like, oh, you can't sell the whole house, sell the front of windows.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why would I sell the front? If I can't build enough value that all their windows suck, then I suck.
Yeah.
But I was real quick to go to bottom, and they hated it. But I would be sitting at the table, and I'd be like, look, you guys have done this before. You guys make $500,000 a year as a household. Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and play the stupid sales game like you're ignorant. It's insulting if I do that to you.
Yeah.
I'm literally going to give you my bottom number. We will do the whole house plus the front door, and it's $35,500. I'm going to pack my stuff up and throw it away. If we have to come back out, I can't get above a 10% discount. That's just it.
Yeah.
So if y'all want to do it, cool. If not, don't care. I'm going to go to Quick Trip and get pizza. If y'all want to do paperwork, we can. And I would just pick my shit up and go.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the thing is I didn't care. But my close rate was so high because it just never mattered to me. I knew about halfway through the appointment if I was getting a deal or not.
Yeah, commission breath is a real thing. If you're I'm not going to make rent unless I make this sale, or if you're in a competition or whatever the case is, we stopped doing all these high pressure competitions because at the time we weren't hiring on core values, we were just hiring, right?
Yep.
And these guys, their character would just diminish whenever $1,000 bonus came into play. And then all of a sudden we have quality issues, you know?
You know what I did? So on the medical side of the business, we have some drawings and stuff on the hair salon side, but it's the scale slides. So it's based on the number of hours you work, revenue you do, whatever. So it's fair. There isn't like a net number, and that's usually what sales stuff is, right? It's
Right,
net.
it's net, yeah.
So on the hair or on the medical side, I do raffles, but the entries that you get for raffles are you're on time every day, no call outs. So you get an entrance if you do that, and it's also tied to whether or not your data and stuff on the back end is correct and timely. Yeah. And so I'm basically giving them an entry to a raffle at the end of the month. And the number of entries they have in the raffle is based on showing up on time, punctuality, cleanliness of data.
Things that make the business operate better.
Bingo.
Yeah.
They don't know I'm doing it, right? But they're going to make sure that they're not late because they don't want to miss out on it. And I give away like $2,000 in gas cards.
Gotcha.
And so like everybody wants to have the raffle entries because who doesn't want gas cards? Right. You know what I mean? So and then we also,
is this ongoing or is this a quarter? This is an ongoing thing you're doing. Okay.
Yep. And every third month we'll do like a big one. And it's an aggregate. So we take at the end of the third month, we take all of the entries that they amassed, and it's like a bigger drawing.
So if they're on, and then we also over a year's time, they're winning some stuff.
So not only that, we have like a body shop cash is what we call it. So every day that they show up and they earn a raffle ticket, they get $2.50 in this like cash pool, right?
Okay.
The cash pool can be cashed out at any time, and it could be for anything. If they want to buy tires, if they want to go on a trip, if they want it on a vanilla gift card.
What if they quit?
I don't care. They don't get to take it.
Gotcha.
It disappears.
Yeah.
But if they do that perfectly for a month, it's worth like 60 something bucks, but it's almost $1,000 over a whole year.
Yeah.
And so like we have people that have $1,200 banked in this cash, and like when they cash it out, it's a business expense for me, right?
Right.
Because I put it on the business card. I'm buying a trip to go whatever.
Yeah.
They don't get taxed on it, and it's a win for everybody.
Yeah.
So like they earn their raffle ticket plus they get their $250 or whatever. There's a lot of value in showing up on time and having your data right. And that way I don't have to make it where people are in the trenches elbow to elbow trying to hit something. If they do all of these things right, I win.
Yeah.
so like that's how I set it up like that, because they're all operating on a perfect plane. They're not late. Their data is correct. Their paperwork is good. Their accounts are clean. The money is right. All of that stuff. And like, I hate to say it, but like I'm paying them extra to do their job.
It's very true though. It happens all the time, you know, and that, and you were saying that most competitions are net, and you're very, very correct on that. You have to do it that way, because too many times I've just done a competition with no minimums.
Yep.
And I ended up spending money I didn't need to spend for the same production.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And at that point, all it is a recruiting tool. Hey, they're giving away TVs over there. You know, you want to go work for them, get your free TV. And that doesn't last, you know?
No, and like we have every other Friday is a paid day off. They have 10 paid vacation days. So, I mean, there's a lot of perks here.
Yeah.
That most other places don't have, and I pay higher than most people for the job that they're doing. But and people always ask, they're like, so why do you want to be above like the higher end? I don't have to worry about it. No one's leaving me because they're not getting paid.
Right.
You know, and that's the hardest part for most people. It's like, okay, if I'm getting paid a little bit less, but I love the work environment, I might stay. Yeah. If someone comes at me with $5 more an hour, I don't even care if I like the place.
Right.
So if I can make sure that they love their job and they love the brand and they know that there is a potential to move up, great. If they're already making enough money where they're happy, they can get married, buy cars, buy houses, go on vacations, whatever, and they never move up, they don't care. So the people that are ambitious will try and take it. The people that aren't ambitious aren't getting paid like they're a worker bee. And they've got vacation time and all this other stuff.
Right.
And so that's the type of culture I try and create was making sure they felt valued. And that's really all I can do, you know?
So do you look at the market and what everybody else is making and kind of gauge it based on that? I mean, if the market changes, you're adjusting on your end?
So the thing about it is when you look at base pays for most of the medical positions across the country, they don't move a lot. You know, an RN in a clinic can expect this amount, an MA in a clinic can expect this amount. Okay. If you're in an ER situation or you're in a travel situation, you can expect this amount. MAs specifically, I mean, I think national average is like 13 an hour. I'm
what
at
is?
like, yeah, a medical assistant.
Oh, okay.
It's like 13 an hour. My people, after their deductions and stuff, because I run them all as 1099 so they can keep mileage and cell phone and all of that.
Okay.
It's around 22.50. Like, so I have MAs that their 1099s last year were pretty close to 50 grand.
So I've got questions on that then, because I've gone back and forth. You know, I've paid the $500 an hour lawyer, you know what I mean, or the $1,000 an hour lawyer. When it comes to that, obviously they've got to set up their own LLCs. Do you pay for that? Do you walk them through that? And
so the way that they all do it is I don't even tell them that they have to do their LLC because they can file as a sole proprietor or whatever.
Okay.
So they don't need the LLC to still get the same deductions. If they want to do it, they want to pay themselves out, I make my CPA available and I'll even pay for it.
Okay.
Same thing with filing at the end of the year. If they're filing just for themselves, I make my CPA available to make sure that they're doing their 1099 stuff right. The biggest part is providing the value and showing them the math and doing it as a 1099, because most people are conditioned to think that if you want to hire them at 1099, you're trying to rip them off or be cheap. Yeah.
No, my guys at this point, because we have taught them all the tax stuff.
Oh, they love it.
But they want 1099 now because they're W-2. And they're W-2 for liability purposes. You know what I'm saying? Because I've been sued too many times. So I'm just at the point where I'm like, fuck it, you're going to be W-2 and you'll be covered under my insurance. And then I know the company's covered versus them having to provide their own insurance. And then if they get sued because they knocked over somebody's grandma in an urn or something like that, you know what I mean? Like when they're inside of the house, you know? And so I've gone back and forth on it, but my closers are making like 150, 200 grand now. And they're like, oh my God, I'm looking at my taxes coming out and I made 10 grand, but I'm only getting 6 grand of it. And I'm like, fuck, you know?
Well, so on the insurance side though, if you're having them run LLCs, you can add them as also insured. And if you do that, it'll cost you a little bit more money than just your standard, you know, for your business. But what you can do is you can have them pay that piece. So if they want to be 1099, add them as an additional insured, be like, this is your insurance charge, and tack that onto their shit at the end of every month.
So one of the things we did in the past is we charged them an admin fee, and that kind of created the business-to-business relationship.
Yep.
But right now, the way we're structured is they show up at the office every day and they do training. And then they also train our new people coming in. So that's kind of where I feel like the IRS would have a case.
So with 1099 stuff, there's a lot of gray area with it because their paycheck doesn't revolve around them showing up to this training, right? What you're saying is basically like, in order for you to have access to our leads and do our stuff, this is our process. You can show up for it. You cannot show up for it. Doesn't matter to us. If you don't show up for it, we're not going to send you leads. It's conditional.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? And so the thing that you can't tell them is when their shift is. They have to show up to this building. It has to be 8 to 5. It's whatever. With the medical stuff, like my pop-up clinics are 11:30 to 7:30. These are the hours. If you want them, you will show up. If you don't want them, don't come to work.
And then on the back end, you're not going to invest in someone that's not showing up. And eventually they're gonna move on.
But the IRS can't get mad at me for it. Those are the shifts that are available.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you want to work, this is where you're going to be in whatever. If you don't want to show up, then you don't show up. I'm not going to give you more shifts, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And they're relying on their own stuff. They have their own cars. They're bringing their own, you know, materials. There's some things that I supply them. They have to use their own knowledge and their own training because they're all certified. And that's where it all falls in place.
Gotcha.
And I talked to multiple attorneys about this. And they're like, the only thing that you can't do is be like, you can't run it like a W-2 position at a call center. You can't, there's no way you can have a call center person be contracted.
Right.
Not a thing.
Yeah.
If they're going out into the field and they're running leads for you, of course they can be contracted.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to call the lead and be like, oh, I'm going to be there at 2. Maybe you set the appointment at 1.
Yeah.
They're not getting fired for it. You're not in control of that.
Right.
But in order for them to be a contractor for you, they have to come in for these safety trainings. Why? Because they're on your insurance. Like, there's nothing that anybody can do about that.
So what about, and I've heard a few different arguments on this. What about benefits?
So benefits, you can offer them and you can offer to pay for them. And there isn't really anything wrong with it. All you're doing is making it available. Now, if it became part of an employment package, completely different. So if you're like, hey, you're a contractor here, because you're contracted, we've got access to these medical plans. If you're interested, you will pay this amount. We'll cover the other half just as, as part of our working agreement. When you leave, you don't get to keep it. And it's easy enough being done.
Do you think,
because there's a lot of places that do that. I think AT&T's contractors have access to their healthcare packages and stuff like that.
I didn't know that. If they did, I've read through that contract a million times. But you know what? You know how they get around it is they have a distributor in between. That's what it is.
Bingo.
Yeah.
So you can use QuickBooks. You can use, it doesn't matter who has it. It's just not you. Like, we have access to this stuff. If you choose to use it, we'll cover this piece of it, but it's not internal.
Gotcha. No, that makes a lot of sense. We do have one 1099 person on our insurance right now. We ran it through Jeff with Iconic, and so that's how we got that done.
Thank you guys so much for checking out this episode of the Building Great Sales Teams podcast. We sure do appreciate it. We still have more conversation with Jacob Stahler coming up in the next week. So be sure to subscribe, like, and share, and be ready for that episode to come out. In the meantime, let's get building. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Building Great Sales Teams. We appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and leave a review wherever you consume podcasts, and subscribe so you're notified when we release new content. Great sales teams aren't recruited. They are built brick by brick. Let's get building.